Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of the Bigger Picture Podcast. My name is Brandon. I'll be your host for today's episode. And, of course, we have our normal guest, Obina. Say what's up, Obi.
Good.
We got Justin Gray, back from last time.
What's happening?
And new to the podcast, we have my good friend Kyle. Kyle, say what's up.
What's good, man?
Introduce yourself. Where you from, man?
Born in Brooklyn. Grew up in Newport News. 757 is my home. That's it.
757 represent a lot of legends out of that city. That's what's up.
You already know.
Of course. All right, so last episode, if you guys watched it, again, make sure you leave a like, you leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. We're going to be posting content multiple times a week. At least that's the goal right now. Today's topic, we're going to transition from sports into music. So the question being, after artists die, how do you feel about, them being either exploited, or do you feel like their music that gets released after their death, you feel like that benefits them and their legacy? We've seen a lot of this recently now in the social media era. They can release music like crazy, produce a full studio length album within months. We've seen XXXTentacion pass. We've seen Mac Miller go. Most recently, Pop Smoke, just a few months previous. So the question being, do you think it's going to benefit some of these guys and their legacy later on as time goes on? Or do you think it's just simply these music executives and their family members exploiting them, trying to get every last penny out of their portfolio? We'll start with you, Obi. What do you think?
See, for me, it really depends on their camp, right? Who has control of the music after they die? Because some artists, we don't know Pop Smoke had that conversation with 50, as he was executively producing his album. So, for instance, if I'm I'm thinking of a good example. If I've been working with Dre, I trust Dre. While I'm alive, I trust Dre. I trust his musical prowess and his skill, and he's already been producing my music. So we probably had that conversation. And even if we didn't, if I pass, I can trust the people in my camp who already have access to my music. Because you have to think about it. These people could have leaked your music while you're alive. So you already have a level of trust where, working together, y'all have that same creative energy. I can trust you to fulfill my vision and put it out to the best of your ability. Because you have to think, that money's going to my family. Pop's been getting all this money for 20 plus years
Tupac.
After his death. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, Tupac. You know what I'm saying? And it's all been going to his family, hopefully. That's my assumption. So it really just depends on who's in your camp. Because we've seen the opposite where, if I'm Pop Smoke, I don't want to make music with like Lil Yachty or some shit or some bullshit. I have a certain sound and energy. So just fulfill that dream and fulfill that vision.
Well, it was definitely fair. It's definitely fair, but you got to also understand when a lot of these people die, you would assume it's left in good hands. But these people, in their wills, does it say, hey, the record company owns 100% of it? You got to think a lot of guys today, they're in 360 deals. So a lot of them, they weren't making decisions to begin with. So any merch, any type of music, any features that they had in the vault, a lot of that, it was never your decision to really begin with. So I think that does play a big part into it. What type of deals you were signed to, if you were independent, if you were just making music on your laptop. If that's the case, then yeah, your family has all the right legally to release every bit of it and get as much money as they can. Doesn't mean you'd want them to do that, but it is what it is kind of at that point. So I definitely see what you're saying. When you look at like a Tupac, his people are eating and they've been eating for years. But I feel like he also left them in a really good spot. And I think the reason why you can argue that he's bigger dead than alive is simply because of what he did when he was alive. So for a lot of these artists who are dying nowadays, you got to look and say, okay, look at like a Juice WRLD. Juice WRLD was able to record a lot of music before he passed away. And it's setting him up for success after he's died. But you look at Mac Miller, he really didn't have that much stuff. You haven't really heard a lot from his camp. Maybe that's by design. Maybe they do have something planned, but got to think of it that way. Let's go to Justin. Justin, what do you think about it? You think it's going to benefit these artists long term? You think it helps their legacy? or you think they're just getting exploited? What do you think?
In these situations, I have to look at it on a case by case basis. You know, I have to look at how the person may have passed, who's leading their camp or who's leading their estate. Like you said, were they in a 360 deal? If they're in a 360 deal, I might look at it differently than someone who has all the rights to their master. Someone like he's not dead, but say Jay-Z was to pass or something like that. Mm-hmm. Hopefully that never happens, but I would say that it would benefit him and his family because he owns all the rights to his master. So, you know what I'm saying? All of that money would go to whatever he has set up currently, you know what I'm saying? As far as somebody like Pop Smoke, I don't know exactly how his deal was set up with whatever label he was with, but I'm sure and I'm hoping, like Obi said, that, those proceeds are going to his family. Or even if it's not going to his family, maybe it might be set up to some type of organization or foundation, you know what I'm saying? Some type of proceedings to that. It just depends on the case by case because, these guys, they work on this music and they work on this music, but maybe some of these songs weren't even meant to be released. Some of them were just for, personal pleasure. I just wanted to hear myself on this song, or it's just something that I like personally. You know what I'm saying? So, it all boils down to the case by case for me. I think it can be beneficial because, like you said, it can extend their legacy. It gives us a piece of that artist after they're already gone. But at the same time, on the financial end, it just depends on how it's set up with their deal and who owns the rights to their master.
And not even definitely from a financial standpoint, because at the end of the day, when they were alive, that was their goal. How can we make this money? How can we, get to the top of the charts, etc. But how do you feel from a legacy standpoint? 10 years from now, do you think people will be listening to Pop Smoke? Do you think people will still bump Mac Miller in their car? Just like people today, they still rock Biggie, they still pump Tupac. There's a lot of, Eazy-E fans still to this day, and their music lives on. People pay millions of dollars to sample these songs. But are we going to hear that from these newer people? Again, it has to do with the deals, but I feel like from a legacy point of view, the more music I feel like that they are releasing, it definitely kind of hurts, what they did. People, it's hot now, but again, 5 years from now, how are we going to feel? Kyle, what are your thoughts? Let's see what do you have to say?
Definitely, I think a big artist that we haven't really talked about, Nipsey Hussle. He hasn't dropped an actual, album after he died. He dropped, a couple singles, the one with Roddy Ricch, that was Flames. The one with John Legend, DJ Khaled, that was Flames. I think, based on, the level of success that they actually had when they were alive, like you said, that is, a big factor into, the albums that they drop after they die. Someone like Pop Smoke, he had a big following. He was new, but he had a diehard fan base. It was growing as he was alive. I remember he was at DTLR in Newport News, matter of fact, where I grew up. And the line was crazy, just for album signing. People don't even sign albums no more. And he had a whole line, took pictures of everybody. You know what I'm saying? So someone like him, when he drops something after he dies, people are going to listen. You know what I'm saying? And the fact that, his album was, personally, I liked it. It wasn't something that was great, something that's a classic, but it was something that the fans needed, something that, the timing was perfect. They didn't wait too long. I think, if you wait too long, that could damage, especially someone new like him. Now, Biggie, when he dropped, Life After Death, or not Life After Death, Born Again, that's what his album after he died. Did he drop that? That was, to me, that's a classic album as well. But someone, at his stature, that's all he does is drop classics. Tupac, majority of the albums that, were dropped after he died, those were classics. Someone, like Mac Miller, he had a nice following. He wasn't someone that was super mainstream. So I know he did drop one album after he died. People liked it. It was a good success compared to what he's done. Juice WRLD, a lot of people are excited about that one. So it really just depends, honestly, on how successful they were, what big a following they had. If someone with who died, not Lil Pump, what's his name?
Lil Xan?
Yeah, I think it was Lil Xan, something like that. He died. He had a nice little following, but no one, just being honest, nobody was excited about what he was going to drop after he died. Nobody's looking for, what he's about to drop after that. So I do think, as long as the music is complementary to what they did while they were alive, I think that they're, it could help their legacy. I don't really see it, hurting unless it was something that was like not put together well. Like if it was in the wrong hands and they just, didn't do something that they would have done. Like Pop Smoke, I'm pretty sure, he had all those songs in the vault ready for, an album like this. Same thing with Tupac before he died. He knew he was going to die. So he recorded a whole bunch of albums, a whole bunch of music. So when it did drop, he was ready. He was ready. Biggie, he wasn't as, in the studio as Tupac was, but he still had that, still had a couple records that he, had that he could do for Born Again. And then I think what it did is flip his songs that was exploiting him, flipping his songs on that CD Diddy did. They just took his old verses and put new beats on it, had new features. I mean, it was fire, but to me, that's exploiting the artist right there, where you're just taking old verses, nothing new. And just pretty much remixing everything, just different beats, like the Bone Thugs and Harmony song you had. They did that, and they put who they put on it? They put I think Nelly and some other people. It just that I think was exploiting. I didn't think that was.
So I agree. There's definitely exploitation, but at the same time, you got to think if the fans are asking for it, and the fans want more content, and the fans are willing to pay for it, is it at that point exploitation, or are you just catering to that fan base that's still there and that's still valid, it's still active?
And I hear that point, but the reason I say that's exploitation, none of that was new music at all, and that's on that CD. None of that was new music. Born Again was new, but that CD was just taking his old verses, his one of his best verses on each album that he had, and just flipped it and made it into a new song. I mean, it wasn't bad. It still was Biggie. Like, he still rock. He can do anything and still be hot. But to me, I think that album was exploitation by Diddy. I'm not surprised because Diddy has a lot of bad, business, practices that he's had with people that was, that rock with him heavy. And a lot of people, really haven't repaired a lot of their, relationships with him. I think, his Bad Boy 20th anniversary kind of helped him out a little bit, but I feel like he's one of the people that definitely, exploits some of his artists for a variety of reasons.
You could definitely argue that. And I think we've talked about a lot of rappers, but we have to look at, I think the bigger picture would be artists in general. We haven't talked about Michael Jackson, Aretha Franklin, a lot of these artists who have passed away recently. And it's not just me listening to their music. Prince, another example. Prince's music catalog was not on iTunes for over a year, 2 years after he died. And that was his family's decision, his estate's decision. And the moment they put the Purple Rain and, all the different songs on there and the albums that he had produced, immediately went to number one, immediately sold another 1 million copies worldwide. So I think the way that these older artists set it up, and I think what we'll start to see is that those people, their music is going to pass the test of time. Michael Jackson's, Aretha Franklin's, people will always pay for that. But these newer artists, I don't know, is it the social media era and the access to internet? People can just download stuff whenever they want. What is it going to truly be? I mean, do you think that has an impact? You think the older artists and singers, you think they have a better right to victory in this situation? Or at the end of the day, is it just, once you go, that's it? It doesn't really matter. What do you think, Justin? You get on
that? I feel like it just depends on how the albums are put together. I think Kyle touched on this a little bit. Like, is it just a bunch of random songs put together, or is it actually an album format? You know what I'm saying? If it's actually an album format, then of course I feel like it'll benefit the legacy. But if it's just a compilation of random songs, then it could have a hit or miss effect. You know what I'm saying?
Greatest hits albums.
Yeah. It just depends on how the album is put together, and that goes back to who's in charge of putting the album together. Is it somebody that's actually musically inclined that's in charge of this? Like Obi touched on, I would have Dr. Dre, in charge of my, post-death album. And I would feel comfortable with him putting out something that I would be comfortable with. But if it's somebody, even somebody's mother, that might not be as musically inclined, are they going to put together something that a person or the artist themselves would have, released as well? So that's another question you have to ask.
No, that's definitely fair. Obi, any last thoughts on this before we wrap it up?
Yeah, just kind of touching on everything they were saying. Prince was a good example. I was going to bring him up because, Prince was one of the few legacy artists that he owned his masters, right? He owned all his music. And, it's cool seeing a lot of the tribute concerts and stuff people did for him, but he never wanted any of that. Prince was one of those people like, don't touch my shit when I'm done. A lot of artists do want that because there's a certain level, you give up all your artistic integrity. And with Pop, he probably recorded a lot of this before he died, and it was just a matter of them arranging it and putting it out. That's cool. But one thing I want to bring up, like Justin was saying, it depends on who has their hands on it, because a label, their objective is to make money, make hits. So they might arrange your music in a way where you're featured with certain artists. They play your artists for a certain demographic that you don't really fuck with. And I think I saw a little bit of that on this Pop Smoke album. Certain artists I don't think he would really bang with in real life, they kind of threw on there because it'll be a hit. You have Quavo, Baby, like it's gonna be a hit. But I'm happy 50 is the one that produced it, because that brings me to my other point. Sometimes you have to get out of your own way as an artist. For instance, like, I remember when the Clips first got the grinding beat, they hated it. Like, I hear a lot of stories about that. Kanye hated Gold Digger, and it took someone else being like, nah, this is the one, just do it, this is the one, and became one of their biggest songs. 50 is such an intelligent guy, and he knows how to build and construct albums and hits. Him arranging it, you don't know Pop, if he was alive, he could have been like, hey, don't put that. Me personally, I like the second album better than his first one. To me, his first album, all the songs sound the same to me. I fuck with that because I like his sound, but this one had more diversity. Like the Woo was like that summer, Latin, club record he had. He had the Diana joint with King Combs. He had the Many Men flip that he had. He had a lot of different sounds to me on this. And I feel like that was the product of 50 more so than Pop. That's just me. So, like I said, like Justin said, it depends on who has their hands on it. You know what I'm saying? And what your wishes are. Yeah.
No, definitely. And I think we can all come to agreement that, whether it is about money, whether it's about legacy, if you like the artist and if they went a little bit too early, you definitely still want to hear their music, and you definitely are still a fan. You just don't stop being a fan of somebody just because they died. That goes for not even musicians, athletes, actors. No matter who it is, you still want to watch their movies. You still want to watch their old highlights. You still want to listen to their music. So at the end of the day, I think we can all agree that if they go early, you're still going to want to have that memory. And whether you get that through, whatever they did, it's definitely going to play a role or definitely play an impact. So that's going to be it for episode 2, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, give a like, comment what you think. If you think we're right, if you think we're wrong, let us know. Any topics you want us to go over or discuss, hit us up on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You can all find us. I'll drop some links below in the description. That's going to be it for everyone. Peace out. Y'all be safe.